Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's dive into today's story with a scene straight out of a restaurant drama you couldn't script better if you tried. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Karen demands a booth, throws a plate, and gets kicked out. I recently read a story that reminded me of something that happened when I was a hostess at a steakhouse in my early 20s. A family of 4 came in, and when I sat them, the mom, I'll call her Karen, wanted to move to an area where no tables were open. I told her she could wait back up front. We'd seat her when one of the tables opened. She insisted on standing right by the bus station so she had a view of the people sitting in her desired area. The 4 of them were in the way of guests and servers, but Karen didn't notice. She was too busy staring daggers at people eating. I went to the manager, who tried to move her, but to no avail. Finally, we just let them stay because we noticed a couple in a booth packaging up their food. I checked in a few minutes later to see if that table had left yet and was dismayed to see they had ordered dessert and coffee. Karen was still standing there watching them. The kids were bored and running up and down the wheelchair ramp. I asked Karen again to move back down to the waiting area as she was blocking servers and her kids were an accident waiting to happen. She loudly asked when her table would be ready and pointed right at the couple sipping their coffee. Knowing we were talking about them, the couple looked at us and smiled. It hit me then that they were not leaving on purpose. F. Karen realized it as well because she got very angry. She yelled that they were holding her booth hostage and we should kick them out. I told her we would not ask anyone to leave until they were ready. Then I watched in horror as the woman approached the couple. Karen, you're done here. This is my table now. Pay the bill and go. Couple, smiling sweetly. We just got our coffee and dessert. Karen, then take it to go. We're hungry and you're in our booth. Couple, this is our booth. It's not yours until we leave. Karen raged insults at them until the manager came rushing up to help. He tried to intervene but could not be heard over her screaming about her starving children. The couple kept their cool the whole time, nibbling their dessert and stirring their coffee at a sloth's speed. Finally, the manager had enough and told the woman to GTFO. She was utterly floored that we were asking her to go and not the couple. She picked up an empty dessert plate from their table and chucked it across the room where it hit a wall and smashed into pieces. The manager screamed for someone to call 911. This was before everyone had cell phones. I remember trying to hide my smile from the people around me. What adult acts like this? This woman was in her 40s. There were a ton of open booths too, just not in that area. Karen's husband appeared, grabbed her by the sleeve, and started pulling. She let him lead her towards the front door as she continued to yell insults at us. She called the manager a loser and mocked his career choice. She told me I was a plain nothing going nowhere and effing worthless, and when they'd gone, I went back into the back for a while to hide. I needed to get away from people. When I returned, the server of the couple ran up to me. Server, that couple left, but they wanted to talk to you. They felt so bad about how that woman acted. They saw her watching them, and she was being so rude, they decided to take their time to mess with her. They didn't think she'd do that. They waited a few minutes to talk to you, but then they thought you went home and asked me to give you this as an apology. He handed me a $100 bill. It was a crappy night, but it kind of made me feel better. It's not every day a customer acknowledges when they've made your life miserable. Thankfully, Karen was never seen again. Edited to add, I said the couple made my life miserable because they were done eating and planning to leave, but they decided to stay and F with Karen. If they just left, none of that would have happened. Nothing they did hurt me, but the insults from Karen sure did. It's not easy being a young kid making $5 an hour and being berated by people who think they're better than you. If I were one of the couple, I would do exactly what they did. You want to be a total jerk about the table I'm currently using? Let's have another look at the menu. And our second story. No, I'm not Jessica. My late-night battle with dispatch. Years back, I worked as a shift lead at a fast food restaurant in a one-stoplight town. There was supposedly a chain of command, which I was the lowest, but that didn't stop the upper management from giving the local PD my number as contact without informing or asking me about it prior. Their reasoning? you live closest and can get there quickest. This was incorrect, by the way. There was another shift lead who lived 3 blocks from the store while I lived 10 miles away. The first time I was woken up at 3 a.m. by dispatch, they asked for my coworker, let's call her Jessica. I sleepily informed them that they had the wrong number. They then asked if I worked at the restaurant. I said yes. They asked me how quickly I could get to the store because they found an open window. The reason open is in quotations is due to the fact it wasn't open. The closers just hadn't put the bar in place to secure it. I informed dispatch that it would take me a while, seeing that I'm half asleep and I lived in the next town over. They said that'd be fine and then an officer would meet me there. So I went, let the officer in to check the building, secured the window, and then drove back home to collapse back into bed. The same scenario continued, including them calling me Jessica for a year. Each time I informed them that my name was not Jessica, and each time stating my full name, even after I transferred from that restaurant to another in a different city. Now, I haven't worked for that restaurant for going on 3 years, and all of a sudden I got a call at 3 a.m. Ring, ring. Me, sleepily, hello? Dispatch, we need to speak with Jessica? Me, wrong number. Dispatch, this is county name dispatch. We need you to come to the restaurant. Me, fully awake now and PO'd that they interrupted a very good dream. For the last time, my name is not Jessica. I haven't worked at that store in over 2 years, and I haven't worked for that effing company for a year. Now, please take my number out of your damn call list. Dispatch, there's no need for that language. Me, let me wake you up from a good dream to call you by another name and tell you to go to a place you don't work and hear what your language is like. Click. I actually stayed awake for about 30 minutes just to see if dispatch would call back or send a deputy. If they ever call again, pretend you never worked there. Ask questions like, so if the cash box is open, I can just take the money? And do I get free food for going there? And can you give me directions to find it? Then ask if it's normal for the police to call random people to help them break into businesses. I bet they get a new number after that. And our last story. The Battle of the Boat, how a quiet man outwitted a petty HOA. I've got a story for you about my buddy Paul, a retired firefighter who's as good-hearted as they come. Paul spent his entire life putting out fires and saving lives, but when he finally hung up his uniform, he ran into a completely different kind of fire, one lit by the pettiness of his HOA. See, Paul had this modest boat that he liked to keep parked behind his house. Nothing flashy, no yacht, no party boat, just a simple, well-kept boat he used for quiet weekend fishing trips. It wasn't visible from the street. Hell, you'd have to be standing on a ladder in the neighbor's yard to even glimpse it. But of course, the HOA decided this wasn't acceptable because God forbid someone in suburbia has hobbies. They started hitting him with fines, claiming the boat was an eyesore and violated some arbitrary rule they dusted off from their little binder of misery. Paul, being the stubborn and principled man that he is, wasn't about to just roll over. Now, I'm the kind of nerd who loves reading contracts, agreements, legalese, all the stuff normal people hate. So when Paul came to me venting, I practically begged him to let me take a look. I spent a few evenings combing through his HOA's covenants and restrictions, and lo and behold, there it was, clear as day. The HOA could only regulate what was visible from the street. Anything behind the house out of plain view, none of their business. Paul wrote up a very polite but firm letter demanding the fines be dropped. He even highlighted the specific clauses and included photo evidence that his boat wasn't visible from the road. He thought surely they'd realize their mistake and back down. They didn't. Instead, they doubled down, responding with a condescending letter full of their usual HOA jargon, property values, community standards, and my personal favorite, the spirit of the agreement. Paul was furious, but he didn't lose his cool. He got smart. He dropped $2,000 on a real estate attorney who specialized in HOA disputes, and this guy was worth every penny. After a couple of carefully worded letters from the lawyer, the HOA caved. They dropped the fines, admitted they had no authority to regulate his boat, and quietly slunk away to find someone else to harass. You'd think that would be the end of the story. But you don't know Paul. No, after everything they put him through, he decided that winning wasn't enough. He wanted to make a statement, and that's where I came back into the picture. Together, we brainstormed the most legal, most obnoxious, most infuriating way to remind the HOA that they lost. The result? We built a 40-foot-tall temporary structure on Paul's property. And when I say temporary, I mean it was fully within every city and HOA guideline for temporary installations. The structure was just a glorified scaffolding tower, but on top of it, we attached a 25-foot pole flying the gaudiest, most attention-grabbing flag we could find. Picture a giant neon orange flag that flapped noisily in the breeze like a defiant middle finger to the entire neighborhood. You could see it from blocks away. It became the conversation starter for anyone who entered the neighborhood. Now, we were smart about it. The local rule stated that a temporary structure had to be taken down or moved every 90 days, so every 3 months, like clockwork, we'd disassemble it, store it for a weekend, and rebuild it. Every single time. The HOA's veins were practically popping out of their foreheads. They sent angry letters. They tried to inspect the property, which Paul naturally refused to allow without a warrant. They even called the city, only to have the city inspectors confirm that, unfortunately for them, everything was 100% above board. They were completely powerless. Over time, other neighbors, even the ones who didn't particularly like the flag, started quietly rooting for Paul. They were sick of the HOA too, and seeing someone stick it to them so perfectly became a sort of neighborhood legend. After about a year of playing this beautiful game of passive-aggressive chess, Paul decided to retire the structure, not because he had to. Oh no, he could have kept it up forever, but because he wanted to end it on his terms, not theirs. The day he took it down, the neighborhood felt almost somber. It was like the end of an era. But the legacy lived on. Every time there was a neighborhood barbecue or block party, someone would inevitably bring up the tower and laugh about how Paul outmaneuvered the HOA. Paul still has his boat, he still parks it behind his house, and he still gets a twinkle in his eye whenever someone asks him about the time he defeated the HOA with a scaffolding tower and a fluorescent orange flag. Paul wasn't looking for trouble, he just wanted to fish on the weekends. His boat wasn't even visible from the street, but that didn't stop the HOA from sniffing around, barking about community standards like it was some sacred law. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.